Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about those next steps. Let's start with Israel. The images, the videos, the reporting we've seen out of Israel is nothing short of horrifying, unspeakable. There was reports this morning that babies were beheaded in the attack over the weekend. So what do you think Israel should do?
Oh, fortunately, I wasn't hired to give that advice because I don't know. Look, I'm a peace activist. I worked in conflict resolution places all over the world, from Afghanistan to Syria. And I know in these moments when you are hurt and hurt massively, the first thing you think about is to pay back. But I also know from the work I've done in other places that usually doesn't really help. That doesn't necessarily solve the problem. At the end of the day, you can go and, what I think Israel will do is will attack Gaza, will potentially even have a land invasion in Gaza. I don't think it will bring any change to the reality we're living in. What we need to do is a political end to the current conflict, an end to the occupation in the West Bank and Gaza, a political process that helps Palestinians and Israelis to coexist together. The biggest mistake in the last 20 years is that we've believed, Israelis, Palestinians alike, that the status quo is sustainable, and the status quo is not sustainable. And we might manage to have another 5 years of quiet, another 10 years of quiet, and then we'll find ourselves where we are today again in 5 years, in 10 years, and we'll be asking the same question: what do we do now? Unless we look at this as a bigger question, how do we create, how do we move toward a sustainable peace between Israelis and Palestinians where we can live side by side together? There is no solution. Violence, power, strength, military can only do short-term success. It will not be able to do a long-term success.
What does long-term success look like at all? Is that likely? I want to discuss the likelihood of that. You've committed your life to peace. Do you think peace is possible in the near future or at all?
Yeah, I mean, you never make peace with your friends. You're already in peace with your friends. You make peace with your enemies. You make peace exactly with your bitter enemies, with people you can't stand. That's why it's a peace agreement. If you're already friends, you don't need to make any peace with the other. How likely is it going to happen? I'm not very optimistic, at least in the short term, because I do not see leaders um, that are willing to move in that direction. I don't see appetite, unfortunately, willing to go in that direction. I think more likelihood is we will see in the short term more and more violence, and it's on us, Israelis and Palestinians, to push away leaders who are calling for more and more violence. If we look at comments from Hamas leaders or from Israeli politicians in the last, before what happened the last few days before the attack, um, it was horrible. It was all comments that inflame. It was all comments that incite to violence. It was all comments about how we need to get rid of the other. And those kind of policies and those kind of words and that kind of messaging will only lead us to more violence. And today we hear similar messaging. I understand because of what's going on, but in the end of the day, like I said, you can bomb Gaza into oblivion. You can kill 100,000 people, but you know what that will do? Next generation again of angry, bitter kids who will want revenge, and then we'll go back into the same cycle. This is what we've done for the last 75 years: fighting, arguing, killing each other. We're not doomed to live in this cycle of violence. It is not the only future we can choose. We have an alternative. This division that we have, that based on fear and ignorance and hatred, we have the ability to break through it. But we have the ability to break through it if we, people, are able to start pushing our politicians and say, we're not okay with it. Unfortunately, I don't think that's where we are. Like I said, I'm talking to a lot of people. Yes, there are people like me, but there's still a lot of people who are angry and who want revenge and who want to kill and who want to feel good. And it doesn't matter how much you hurt the other side, you're not going to feel good. I don't really believe any Palestinian watching what happened is feeling good. They might be like, oh, good, we won a victory, a short victory. But come on, you can't see children being hurt, old people being hurt, women being killed, and feel good. It might, and the same thing, I can't believe any Israeli watching civilians being killed in Gaza and feeling, oh, well, that's good. Even if for a momentary being like, oh, we won, we paying them back, the long term, this is what keeps us where we are today. This is why we are here, is because of violence.